This is what the Earth will look like after 1,000 years. Due to the changes in air and temperature, all kinds of creatures have mutated. Birds have become larger than planes. Monkeys have become the overlords of the forest. Even plants have evolved a self-defense system. If humans return to the Earth now, humans would not survive for 24 hours. Today, I recommend a high-rated masterpiece, After Earth, which is being screened on a film and television platform established on the .com and .top domains. Let's watch it together. A spaceship accidentally crashed to the Earth. Only a father and son survived by chance. Fortunately, some equipment can still work, but unfortunately, it was detected that the distress signal transmitter fell somewhere 100 kilometers away. But at the moment, the father's legs were broken and unable to move. The 15-year-old son could walk through. This would be their only hope of being rescued before leaving. Will gave his son the remaining 5 breathing fluids and told him not to be afraid. He would protect him through the communication bracelet. But he didn't know that as soon as his son left, he immediately released countless detectors and searched around. It turned out that with the spaceship, there was also an extremely terrifying alien creature. Sure enough, not long after Xiao Hai set off, his protective suit suddenly turned black, which meant something was rapidly approaching. Jack's heart beat faster in an instant, and then, a monkey appeared in front of him. His father quickly reminded him not to act rashly, but before he could come up with a solution, ignorant Jack picked up a stone and threw it. But he successfully angered the monkey, and immediately summoned the entire monkey group, and they all rushed over angrily. Jack had never seen such a scene before, and ran away in fear. He finally jumped into the river to get rid of the monkeys behind him, but at this time, Jack was already terrified. Even though he escaped the danger, he still couldn't stop running. He calmed down only after his father shouted at him. However, the next second, his protective suit suddenly turned white, indicating that his blood had been polluted. He reached out to check and found there was a huge leech attached to it. Jack quickly shook it off, but it was too late. The neurotoxin quickly spread throughout his body, making his face instantly swollen like a pig's head, and his vision became blurred. With his father's guidance, he managed to find the medical kit. He inserted an antidote into his heart, but when he was injecting the second needle, his hands lost sensation. Fortunately, with his father's reminder, he relied on the gravity of his body to the second needle into his heart. But even if he escaped the danger of death, the toxin still made Jack fall into a deep sleep. Looking at his son who fell to the ground and was unconscious, Will was anxious, but he could do nothing because the temperature difference between day and night is huge, with a minimum of -80 degrees. Only by finding a heat source before dark to avoid freezing to death, to keep his consciousness clear, he resolutely gave up the plan to inject painkillers. Soon night fell. His son finally woke up. He realized that time was running out. He must reach the nearby heat source immediately. Next, it was a race against time. Fortunately, with his excellent running talent, Jack arrived at the heat source in time. However, when he checked his equipment, he found that the crazy escaped during the day, causing 2 breathing fluids to be damaged. But in order not to worry his father, Jack hid the truth from his father. The next morning, he continued on the way as his father guided him. But on the way, he saw a broken arm of a monkey. This scene was familiar to Jack because his sister was killed by the evil spirit. He realized that the evil spirit had also escaped into the forest. Jack hurried up. He headed towards the waterfall transfer station. However, when he arrived, he found that the road ahead was a dead end. But if he changed the route, it would increase 1/3 of the journey. The plan changed. Will ordered to check the supplies again. He found out that his son had lied to him. There were only 2 bottles of breathing fluid left, and at least 3 bottles were needed to change the route, unless he could jump into the waterfall precisely from the cliff. But it was undoubtedly a near-death experience. In desperation, Will had to cancel the mission, asking his son to return to the spaceship immediately. But the stubborn Jack refused to do so, witnessing his sister's tragic death as a child, which made him full of self-blame. This time, he wanted to prove that he had grown up and capable of protecting his family. So, despite his father's opposition, he jumped off the cliff. Then he unfolded his wingsuit and began his thrilling glide. Build a website with a .com or .top domain name to seize new opportunities in the digital era. Seeing this, Will couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat because if he was not careful, his son would be smashed to pieces. But the next second, a more terrifying thing happened. A terrifying giant eagle appeared behind Jack, which obviously regarded him as prey. Seeing the dangerous situation, Will immediately commanded his son to dive down. However, the stubborn Jack disobeyed the order again. He turned and rushed towards the waterfall. Just as Jack was glad to finally get rid of the eagle, when he woke up again, he found himself taken to the eagle's nest and was surrounded by newly hatched baby eagles. While the eagle was away, Jack wanted to escape. He found a group of lions approaching menacingly, aiming at the newly hatched cubs. After being discovered by the eagle, it immediately launched a defense battle. However, another lion took the opportunity and wanted to eat the baby eagle. Jack couldn't bear to drive them away, but it provoked the lion. Fortunately, the eagle arrived in time and threw the intruder into the abyss, but a third lion took its place. In the critical moment, Jack suddenly found that the nest under his feet was collapsed, so at the moment when the lion pounced, he quickly smashed the ground and successfully sent it to the northwest. Unfortunately, the crisis was over. The baby eagles were not spared. Hearing the giant eagle's heartbroken roar, Jack could only choose to leave sadly. But then, he found that the communication bracelet had somehow fallen off, which meant he had completely lost contact with his father. He had to complete the rest of the journey by himself. It was only half an hour before dark. Registering.com and .top domain names lays a solid foundation for online brand assets. Relying on his vague memory and tracking the wild boar, he successfully found the nearby heat source. The flowing magma in the cave helped him to keep him warm from the cold night. But being isolated and helpless made Jack very scared. What's worse, he only had one breath liquid left. Helplessly, he could only rely on his previous memory. He drew a route map on the stone wall and roughly calculated the direction of his next move. As soon as it dawned, he immediately ran on the road. He thought he could shorten the time by speed. The intense physical exertion quickly made him feel short of breath. He had no choice but he had to take the last breath liquid to save energy. Jack decided to use a raft to replace running. Obviously, this plan was wise, but because of extreme exhaustion, he accidentally fell asleep. When he woke up, the surroundings had started to freeze. When he got up to find a heat source, it was too late. With the sharp drop in temperature, his protective suit turned white again, indicating that the temperature exceeded the limit. As a result, after a few steps, Jack was frozen all over and fell to the ground in the forest. But as he was gradually losing consciousness, a mysterious force took him away from the spot and protected him with warmth. When he woke up, it was already the next day. Jack struggled to climb out of the pit. He found that the reason why he didn't freeze to death, it was the giant eagle who repaid his kindness. He sacrificed his life to save him. This scene moved Jack deeply, but he didn't have time to grieve too much, because if he didn't reach the destination, he would be suffocated by the Earth's air. Fortunately, the wreckage of the spaceship was nearby. He hurried to the wreckage. He finally arrived before the breath liquid ran out. Jack successfully reached the end of the mission. The first thing was to find the breathing fluid in the wreckage. After breathing fresh air again, Jack found the real target of this trip, the crucial signal transmitter, but due to the interference of the clouds above his head, the signal could not be sent out. The only way was to climb the nearby volcano to transmit. However, the most terrifying thing happened to Jack. He found several crew members hanging from the trees, which was the hunting trap set by the evil spirit. Because as long as humans are scared, the evil spirit can track the prey's location, track the location of the prey. Seeing this, Jack was terrified. He immediately ran towards the volcano, but as he reached the foot of the mountain, his protective suit suddenly turned black, indicating that the evil spirit had caught up. He quickly hid in the cave behind him, hoping to escape, but he didn't know that as long as there was fear in his heart, he will be exposed in front of the evil spirit. Thanks to Jack accidentally falling into a cave, he accidentally saved his life. However, just as he climbed to the top, before successfully sending the signal, the evil spirit attacked again and launched a violent attack on Jack. Facing the cruel massacre, Jack completely lost the ability to resist. He could only wait for death to come. The figure of his sister appeared in his mind again. At that time, he relied on the shield to block the fear and narrowly escaped. Now his father is in danger. Only by overcoming his inner fear can he defeat the evil spirit and protect his family.
Root yourself in this present moment now. Sight, sound, smell. What do you feel?
Thinking of his father's teachings, at this moment, Jack finally understood. Fear does not come from the evil spirit, but from his own inner choice. When he chose to remove fear from his heart, even if the evil spirit stepped over him, he could no longer sense its presence. When he stood up again, Jack has become determined, fearless. He calmly picked up the dropped weapon and began to settle accounts with the evil spirit. Now that he has lost the source of fear, the evil spirit is like a blind man at the mercy of others. Even if he fought back, it was just blind resistance. Seizing the moment, Jack took a leap and stabbed the two knives into the evil spirit's body. No matter how the enemy struggled, he didn't let go. Finally, the nightmare couldn't take it anymore. He planned to jump off a cliff to die together. However, Jack would not let his trick succeed. He quickly changed the form of his weapon and precisely stabbed into the critical point. At this moment, Jack finally completed his life transformation and grew into a true warrior. Then he retrieved the signal transmitter, pointing straight to the sky, with a dazzling beam piercing through the sky. The distress signal quickly spread throughout the universe. For humans who have mastered wormhole travel, the distance of tens of thousands of light years is just a step away. Soon the rescue team arrived on Earth. In the ruins of the spaceship, they found the dying Will. When the father and son reunited again, Jack only knew that during the days he was away, his father had to keep an eye on the surveillance screen. He had undergone an artery bypass surgery. He insisted on not using any anesthetic during the surgery. Behind the seemingly stern appearance, it was a selfless act of love from his father. The movie ends here.